It is now possible to bring your own domain with the EdgeCDN-X platform. If you want to completely hide the underlying platform's domains, you can now delegate a portion of your DNS zone to the platform and share your content entirely from a domain without exposing any information about the underlying platform. My name is Tomasz, and I'm the developer of the EdgeCDN-X platform. It is an open source CDN built on top of Kubernetes. If you want to find out more about the basics and features, check out my previous video. But for now, let's take a look how it is possible to configure host aliases with your services and serve your content behind your own domain name. We have introduced a new field host aliases in the service CRD since our last video. Using this property, you can configure additional host names on which the CDN will serve your content. Now let's take a look at the details, the 3 different ways how you can configure your services and your DNS so you can serve your content on the CDN platform. The first method, which we also used in the previous video, is simply using the domain name, which is allocated to you by the platform itself. For our case, this is ytdemo.democdn.edgecdnx.com. If you want to use your own domain, but you don't want to delegate a DNS zone to the CDN platform, you can use a simple CNAME record. In such case, you have to set up a desired CNAME to pointing to the domain name in the service spec. For this use case, we will be using the domain name cdn.cname.tbiotech.sk, and this domain will be pointing to ytdemo.democdn.edgecdnx.com. The third method completely hides the underlying CDN's infrastructure. For this method, we have to delegate a subzone on our parent domain to the CDN's DNS infra. This can be achieved by setting up the correct NS records. For this use case, we will be using the domain cdn.tbiotech.sk, which has to be set up as an NS record pointing to ns1.cdn.tbiotech.sk. And at the same time, we have to create a glue A record in our parent zone for the ns1.cdn.tbiotech.sk. In our case, it is pointing to 74.220.25.73. This is the public IP address of the DNS server used in our demo environment. So let's go ahead and configure these new domain names. Just to do a quick recap, we are working with the service name ytdemo.democdn.edgecdnx.com. This domain name is currently serving the content from the tbiotech.sk. So we want our CDN to serve this content from this origin from an additional host alias from cdn.cname.tbiotech.sk and also from cdn.tbiotech.sk. For the CDN CNAME domain name, we will be using the CNAME method, and for the cdn.tbiotech.sk, we will be using DNS delegation. So in order for the CDN platform to serve the content from these host aliases, we have to define a parameter host aliases in our service spec. This will reconfigure our platform and make sure that the content is served from these domains as well. Before we move ahead, we have to tell our DNS infrastructure that it will be now serving DNS names from a delegated subzone cdn.tbiotech.sk. Luckily, this is possible with a new CRD, which is called Zone. So let's look at our changes. We have created 2 new host aliases, cdn.cname.tbiotech.sk and cdn.tbiotech.sk, and we also created a new zone, which is called cdn.tbiotech.sk. Let's commit and sync, and let's fire up Argo CD. Let's hit the refresh button and see what Argo CD is about to do. So we will be creating a new zone, and we will be doing slight modifications to your service. Let's sync and see what happens. So the zone is created, which triggers an application set creation, and so the zone is basically configured in a remote location at Frankfurt 1, where our name servers are running. At the same time, as you could see, our certificate was updated, and now it includes the additional DNS names, which we want to roll out basically on our service. The certificate became ready. That means we have received a new secret, which contains the TLS and the key, and this certificate is also distributed to the individual locations. Now let's take a look how the service looks like at New York City. There is the English definition, and right now the very same English definition has 3 domain names listed. Now go ahead to the terminal and do some debugging with the DNS. So I'm going to resolve the new cdncname.tbotech.sk domain name. As you can see, when I query this CNAME, I get a response of ytdemo.democdn.edgecdnx.com, and this CNAME is pointing to an IP address of 74.220.31.138, which is our IP address of the cache node running in Frankfurt, since I'm based in Europe. If I do the very same for another record, this DNS delegation works a bit differently. So first of all, let's see what's our NS record. As you can see on cdn.tbotech.sk, we get an NS record pointing to ns1 cdn.tbotech.sk. This resolves to the IP address of the DNS. And right now, if I resolve the cdn.tbotech.sk directly, I get an IP address. I get the same IP address that is pointing to Frankfurt 1. So this way, we don't see the underlying infrastructure's domain name, we only see the customer-specific domain name. Let's go ahead to our website and make sure it works. So we are waiting for the certificate. To make sure our certificate is correct, we can check the site settings and look at the certificate details. If you open the details, find the certificate subject alternative names, and you can see all the 3 domain names are now listed in the certificate. So our website appears to be secure. Let's go to our WordPress settings and edit the CDN enabler in CDN enabler plugin and set the CDN hostname to be cdncname.tbotech.sk. Click Save Changes and validate configuration. As you can see, the settings are valid and they were applied. Go ahead and open our website. Now you can see that the random content which I opened on the website is now coming from the cdncname.tbotech.sk domain name. And you can do the very same in the network tab. And you can see that is coming from the CDN. And you can see that this content was cached, so it resulted in a cache hit. The very same is happening, but instead of CDN name, our content is coming from the cdn.tbotech.sk domain. Please note that even though our domain name changes, we still end up in a cache hit status because our cache key is basically the same. The cache key is tied to the service name, not the host alias itself. So that was about it for today. Just to summarize, we have showed you how you can configure and use the host alias feature with the EdgeCDN X Platform. The host aliases were carefully designed with the platform so the customer can bring their own domain names and hide the details of the underlying CDN infrastructure. If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe for updates, and also if you have any additional questions about the platform itself, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much. Goodbye.